All right, guys, welcome to I Think You Think. We've got two great topics for you today. We are talking about rape culture in the first half and girl gamers in the second half. And let me fix things so you can once again see my face. Hello there. Welcome. Now I've got the wrong things up. All right, there we go. Hello, today is May 7th, 2013. You're listening to I Think You Think, a podcast that puts a new spin on debate and discussion. I'm Justin, and on the other side of my computer screen is James.
Howdy, folks.
And we're your hosts, and we carry no credentials worth noting. Today, our guest is Sequoia.
Hi.
Sequoia is our second guest for our guest a week in May. And she's going to join us and talk to us a little bit about some of the topics she was interested in. I Think You Think is a podcast that focuses on what we, your hosts, think, and our guest, what they think, but also what you think. Too many times we spend debates and discussions talking past one another and not enough time trying to learn and understand why someone thinks what they think. This is what makes I Think You Think different, because we are focused on why people think the way that they do and why we think the way that we do. James and I believe that the forum of ideas should be open to everyone, and everyone should have the opportunity to challenge and be challenged by ideas. We are not here to pass judgment, but merely discuss ideas and topics. This podcast, first and foremost, is a conversation between us and hopefully you. Feel free to email us, follow us on Facebook for future podcasts. You know what? I thought I updated all of these. I was pretty sure that I did. Evidently, I did not.
You had a lot of notes, Justin. You had a lot of notes.
I know. So you can interact with us in the chat room. You can join us on our Hangouts. We also are on Twitter at IThink_YouThink. We have a Libsyn account at libsyn.com/. James, do you know?
I Think You Think?
It might be I Think You Think. And then a Chicago Now, chicagonow.com/I.think.you.think. Yes, I think that's all the dots. But yes, so there we are. I Think You Think is produced by StolenArts Productions and is recorded live at Fisher International Studios. So, James, actually, you know what, Sequoia, let's start with you. What wonderful, great, super things have been sapping your life this last week or so?
Well, I just finished a book called All Natural, which is going to start the hippie conversation, I'm sure. Took me like a month to read it, but it was really good. It was interesting, at least. It just felt like it took forever to get through.
All right, and James, what about you?
Well, I have been spending my free time setting up a very geeky media server out of an old laptop and spending time doing that. Beyond that, I've been watching The Voice Australia because I love the fact that their toilets flush backwards, and it makes them better singers than a lot of us. That's
Excellent.
all I really have.
Okay. Well, I have a couple of embarrassing things. One, I've been playing a few Facebook games, which, you know, is it really gaming? I don't know. We can have that conversation sometime. But evidently I'm messing with my camera too. I've been playing a lot of Facebook games, and then I went back to Skyrim. I'm just trying to get rid of all the missions. So I started with all the miscellaneous ones, and I've been working through those, and that's been taking a couple of days, literally days.
I don't know if you can finish all the missions in Skyrim.
I can try, but I don't know. Every time I run into some place, I find that I've got another mission that I've got to do. But there was one other thing I wanted to kind of... I heard about this on Facebook. I'm going to screen share it here. There it is, yes. So this is Undead Labs game coming out called State of Decay. It's going to be for the Xbox 360. All right. Basically, it's a zombie survival game, and it's an open world one. So it looks pretty cool. I haven't seen any gameplay stuff on it. I have only so far seen like trailers for the game. But it looks pretty awesome. I'm excited about it. It's supposed to come out in June, too, so That's the release date. However, they've been working on the game. The earliest post that they have on their stuff is back in February of 2011. So normally games that have been being worked on for a long time either go one of two ways. They are super awesome or tend to not be super awesome. But yeah, there you go.
So we can flip a coin to see who buys it to find out which one it is.
Well, I don't know. It's a zombie game, so I'll probably end up having to buy it just to see. I don't know if I'll buy it new though. I guess it depends on some of the stuff that they talk about. But it was advertised on Xbox. It was one of their splash things, so we'll see.
I just hope there's no good pre-order stuff, or I'll be buying it for $60.
Yeah. It looks a little bit like DayZ, which is a game that's a mod for a computer game, and is pretty awesome. Basically, it's an open world sort of game where you scavenge and try to stay alive and survive. And the zombies that are out there are dangerous, but there's other people out there as well who are willing to kill you and take your stuff as well. So. But that is not what we were talking about today. We are going to start our show with the topic on rape culture. And I think probably a good place to start is really to sort of define it. I know that the concept of it is sort of nebulous. I couldn't even find a really good definition. I really didn't like the one on Wikipedia. I actually found on a website on the Marshall University website, and the way this is the best definition that I really liked with, and I thought maybe this would be a good place to kind of start from, and then sort of go off of it. And what it says is that rape culture is an environment in which rape is prevalent and in which sexual violence against women is normalized and excused in the media and pop culture. So I guess probably where I'd like to start is, do you guys think that we actually live in a culture that exhibits those sorts of behaviors?
I definitely think that we do. I think probably the first time that I heard the term rape culture was talking about the activist walk, slut walk. It was started because on a college campus a girl got raped, and the sheriff's department came down to talk to the college campus about, how to avoid being raped. And one of the things he said was, if you don't want to be raped, don't dress like a slut. And that was like the first time that I heard the term rape culture, and it was talking about that. And I think that, especially with recent cases like the Steubenville case, which I don't know if you've heard about.
No.
It sounds familiar. Can you kind of remind us a little bit?
Yeah, it was this teenage girl went to a party, and there was with a bunch of her friends, and there was like drinking involved, and she drank so much that she ended up passing out, and a couple of boys at the party ended up raping her over the course of a few hours and videotaping it and passing it around school.
Right.
And then when the case went to court, the media coverage was, these poor boys' lives are going to be ruined because, they're going to spend the rest of their lives in jail, and they were high school, football stars, and these poor boys, completely forgetting that, the girl that they raped, had her life ruined.
Right, and that's exactly what, all the reading I did on rape culture, that's exactly the kind of stuff they talk about, that deflecting it to the wrong, there are some cultures that there's such shame put on the victim that, like, families will, they will kill themselves to restore the honor of their family. Now, this isn't really as much in a modern age, but the fact that any blame would be put on the victim in that situation is probably part of right at the heart of what, from my reading and my understanding, what rape culture really is. It's not it's not considered a violent crime like murder, where murder doesn't matter who the victim is. Murder is murder. you know. But in this situation, because there's that gender difference, you know, it gets skewed by people who have a problem realizing that there's no real difference between the crimes, you know.
Yeah, and it kind of focuses more on female rape in the rape culture in blaming the victim. I mean, I suppose to a certain extent, I mean, there are males who are victims of rape as well, but I guess part of the rape culture, you could say, is that they might be less willing to come out because of to report that rape because they're male, and that might be an aspect of it. I do know on the Marshall University website, some of the examples they give is, as you guys had said, blaming the victim, which you were talking about, that slut walk, which that was more of a, you know, really it was that response to that. It had to do with how she was dressing. Really, that's what it has to do with. You know, there's a Facebook page that I had recently joined or liked. I guess you don't really join these ones because it's a group, and it's called Let's Breast Them, and it has to do with a girl in Tunisia who is coming up for. She was trying to speak out against. Tunisia is very. It's an Islamic state, Islam is prevalent in that society. It's part of their government and everything. They even have their laws have Sharia law involved, and so she created a Facebook page and uploaded photos of herself topless, and then body painted on her, "My body is my own and not the source of anyone's honor, and fuck your morals." And because of that, now she is typically, for something like that, women showing off their breasts, they would be looking at 70 to 100 lashes, like, you know, with a whip, that is the punishment for doing that. But they said because what she did was so severe, they're actually talking about stoning her. And so it's, I mean, we do talk about that. We do have, to a certain extent, a rape culture. But I guess when I think that we're further ahead or above a culture such as that, I don't know. I wanted to get your guys' kind of feedback on that.
Well, I mean, I definitely would say that we are definitely ahead of situations like that because, I mean, there have been a lot of examples in recent years of women who were, you know, raped in, Islamic states or out in the Middle East, and who ended up either being killed or forced to marry their perpetrator, or, you know, they were, you know, told that they had to kill themselves. Like, those are all things that happen. We are definitely ahead of that. But that's not really a good baseline to base us off of either. Like, I think we can do a lot of improving on the way that we view it. And, I think we probably shouldn't grade it on a curve so much, if you know what I mean. Like, yes, we are better than that, but I think that we can be even better than how we are now.
And I agree with that. I was looking at some of the statistics, and I couldn't figure out why this is, but the frequency of rape in Canada, they are of, like, I was looking at, I think it was 2010 or maybe 9 stats, because they had the most countries that were listed where I was looking from that year. And besides, like, countries where the reports would basically, you know, go unwarranted, like no one would ever respond to it. You know, some of the Middle Eastern countries where, you know, the numbers have to be way higher than anything that's ever reported. They were the lowest by far of any country where you feel like, where I felt like it's, you know, a first world country where there's law and order and victims can, you know, find help. And I couldn't tell you why that is, but I agree that you can't really grade it on the curve. There's a place where you need to be, and we might be closer to that point, but until you're at that point, you haven't. I mean, there's something has been achieved. If you look at 60 years ago, you know, what the difference in the world and women's rights in this country and a lot of different rights across the board, you know, whether it's, you know, racially based or religious based or gender based or, you know, sexual preference based. We have come a long way. But yeah, we're not there yet. But when I see these things, I was looking at, I mean, there's reports like Fresh reports about, you know, instances of rape. You know, it's in the news right now. You know, I mean, it happens here, it happens there, it happens everywhere. But, you know, part of it is that the people that are perpetrating these acts are screwed up in the head. You know, maybe it's the way they were raised. Maybe they're actually crazy. It doesn't excuse it by any stretch of the imagination. It is still a violent crime and still horrible. But I think the average person in America, I would say, is not buying into or feeling there's any justification for the rape culture. But the remnants are still there, you know, like weeds in the garden, you know, and getting the last of it out for us as a society throughout the world, that is going to be hard pressed. It's going to be very difficult because there's always going to be, you know, those violent, crazy people. So I think the fact that we've come that much farther and judging against the Middle East is that's crazy. Because I mean, the women's rights there, if you could even call it that, you know, the lack of rights for women in a lot of those countries is, I don't even know, undefinable. But if we look at ourselves and what we've achieved over maybe the past, we'll say 60 years again, we have come far, but there is a lot farther to go.
I was wondering, as I was doing a little bit of research, one of the things that I had come across when they were talking about even dramatizing and making rape, kind of changing the perspectives on it, they had brought up the TV show Law and Order Special Victims Unit as one that isn't positive for rape culture, and that was one of those that I wasn't exactly sure on. I mean, I liked Special Victims Unit. I don't watch it as much anymore because it's gotten repetitive and long, and I'm not really interested in the characters that much anymore. But there seems to be a lot more in Special Victims Unit in which they're trying to encourage victims of rape to come out and you know, even against all sorts of odds, many of the characters will stand by the rape victims, and it really goes through that process and that difficulty that they might deal with. Now, that's not all the time. I mean, there are situations in which the quote unquote good guys don't win, and the bad guys do win. But I mean, I don't know if you guys have watched Special Victims Unit at all, and am I just seeing it from my perspective, or I mean, do you see that as well, or?
I've seen the show. I'm not a huge fan of Law and Order in general, but I've seen enough episodes, and yeah, I mean, I can see where that point can be made, just because it puts it out there. You know, it expresses it, and those shows usually are based on real life cases, so it puts kind of reality on the screen, and it's a series of shows that's very, very popular. The Special Victims Unit being probably one of the tops as far as popularity. I mean, it's definitely not the be-all, end-all, but as far as being leaning more towards solution than problem, definitely. You know, does it balance out for like rap videos and a lot of the content of rap lyrics and the way they like treat women, and it's not all by any stretch of the imagination. Anything Chuck D's ever done has got my backing. You know, like he respects people, women or otherwise. You know, and there's a lot of rappers and musicians out there that do. But there's, you know, turn on MTV right now, and there's probably a show about 16-year-old pregnant girls or something that's just offensive on one level or another. Not that I'm personally offended by it, but like the content isn't. They're not telling anybody to stick in school. That's for sure.
I've never seen that show. I'm horribly underinformed about TV. But, I mean, I think anything that sort of encourages women to come forward when they have been raped, women and men both alike, to come forward if they have been a victim, I think is definitely positive, because I think that that's one of the hugest battles that we're fighting in this, fight against rape culture, is that victims don't feel like they can come forward. Like, I've known personally so many people in my life who have been victims of sexual assault and rape and never came forward because the system isn't set up in a way that it's safe for them or that protects them or makes them feel like they can. So I think anything that shows like please come forward and encourages it, I think is a good thing.
I don't think that we would be able to necessarily dissect specifically why our culture has kind of gone this way. So I do want to. There's one other real quick question. Actually, before I go on, because I keep asking questions, does anybody else want to bring something up in regards to this?
I mean, to say that our culture has gone that way, I was thinking about this earlier today, knowing we were going to talk about the subject. It's a heavy subject, and it's one of those subjects that, all day I'm kind of tentative about because it's big, it's huge, and it's awful. But it goes back to warfare. In a world, I mean, we take for granted, even if, at this point, we haven't gotten to a point where women are truly given equality in all circumstances. We have come so far from what it was. I mean, hundreds of years ago, women were property. They had no say. There was nothing, And back then, like, if one army beat the other army and takes the city, it was kind of, I mean, from what I understand, it was kind of their right to rape the women. That's just kind of part of the prize, rape and pillage. You know what I mean? So, like, we're still, I think, dealing with, the after effects of that culture. I mean, it is carried forward with us all the way to this point. I mean, even though we're so far disconnected from, people in armor with clubs storming the wall, but those things still happen, like the wars in Africa, that stuff still happens. It's still, to some people, considered part of it. As scary as that is, it happens, probably happening somewhere right now. You know what I mean? So I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to say that because it's not like our culture has developed into that as much as our culture, we've diverged from it, but now, since I think it was the 70s when the term rape culture was actually kind of coined.
Which would have also been roughly during the same time as the feminism movement started to take hold.
Right. And that has, really kind of brought it to light. And, I mean, it's true that, from what I understand, coming forward doesn't happen, like, I don't know if they have any percentage. It's almost impossible to calculate. But, if everyone always came forward, then there would be much harsher consequences. I mean, I don't have answers, but I know, like, for 14 years I've managed people, and for the first 10 years of that, a lot of the people I managed were high school age, and a lot of those, more than half, were probably female. And one of the things I always encourage is, especially when they're going off to college, I'm like, you want to find a martial arts club. It's going to be a couple things. You're going to work out, you're going to learn to defend yourself, and you're going to befriend, a large group of people who are skilled at defending themselves. Because I think that's the first step. Because, being able to fend off that attacker and have that mentality of confidence, it can make it less likely, and it also makes it that much more dangerous. I mean, it wasn't an instance of rape, but there was an Olympic judo champion. She was a female. 3 guys tried to attack her, and she whooped the hell out of all 3 of them. And that's a great story. You know what I mean? And that's what some of these rapists deserve. Think they're going to find a victim and become one themselves. Try to rape a girl, end up in the hospital. And not because guys showed up, because the 5'2" girl put him in the hospital. That's just, that's my little scenario.
I don't know. I think that, like, what I personally would like to see happen is, like, I remember growing up, I would always get these, like, like, it was almost like PSA type of things where it was talking about how to avoid being raped. And it was stuff like, don't wear if you're going to be out at night, don't wear your hair in a ponytail because he could grab you from behind by it, or girls with shorter hair are less likely to be raped, so keep that in mind. Or, get into your car from the left-hand side because he's more likely to attack you from the driver's side. Like, all of these instances of, like, how you can avoid your own rape. And I think that's, like, a really, like, I think being able to defend yourself is good no matter who you are, and I don't think that you shouldn't, have some sort of idea of how to defend yourself. But I also think that, like, this idea that it's like, how can I prevent my rape? Like, and that being ingrained from a very young age is, kind of really scary that we feel the need to do that. Like, I would like more to move towards a side of it being like, where maybe we're teaching, people, like, teaching, young people more about, like, what does consent mean? And why is it important, because I don't think that conversation is taking place. And I think that we're just assuming that people know, that these young kids coming into the world, I think probably a lot of boys are never told, like, if a girl's drunk, you probably shouldn't, that's not a yes. And I think I would like to see it move more towards a conversation of talking to people and telling them, talking about consent and what it means and why it's important. And, why it's important to respect one another. Because a lot of rapes are not random acts of violence. A lot of rapes happen by, people that they know. It's, they're at a party and they drink a little bit too much, or they get drugged, or, it's, they say no and then it leads to rape. And that's why I think it should move towards more of a conversation about consent and why it's important and how we can promote that.
I can definitely agree with you. I know I was just thinking as you were bringing that up. I recalled now the reason that they had mentioned SVU as a bad example of something, as an example of something that's perpetuating a rape culture, is that concept of rape by a stranger. A lot of their rape victims are raped by a stranger, and that's I think that you're right on it in the sense that there's the amount of rape that it would seem that tends to go on tends to be more of these I don't want to say gray areas of consent, but more of the
it's not a stranger in a hoodie.
Exactly. Or kind of the sense that even if it's like a drug situation or somebody who cannot give consent because they're impaired, it could be a situation in which somebody has a gun or a knife to them, but to say no or to resist in any way would mean your life could potentially be ended. And so the rape victim is actually can't say no, does obviously not consent, but can't say no, can't struggle, can't fight back because they're doing what they can in order to survive. And we have a culture in which you were saying right at the beginning, talking about these high school students, where they did this thing and it didn't cross their mind that it was bad until they were being brought up on charges, being taken to court. I mean, they were so proud of it, they were spreading these videos around. I mean, this stuff that is the evidence for them to be convicted, they never saw it as evidence that they were doing something wrong. It was just like, hey, she was drunk, so it was fair game. I mean, she consented by drinking, so we're allowed to do whatever we want.
And I think it's the rare exception that parenting is the answer. That parenting is not the answer in those situations. If you are raised right, if you are taught these things, that's where it has to be taught. The parents need to instill these values. They need to have the balls to have the conversation about serious things, not just, where's the money for your cell phone bill, or make sure you clean your room, don't forget to brush your teeth, like talk about actual issues, actual important things, And there are plenty of people in this world There are plenty of people in this country that are raised properly that would never, ever, ever do anything like this. You know what I mean? There's plenty of them. They're the majority, but the majority isn't enough. It needs to be, you know, I mean, we're not at 99.9%, where it's just that point whatever percent of people that are just crazy that every society is going to have, you know, that you can deal with on a case-by-case basis and get rid of them. It's inevitable that there's going to be violent crime, you know, whether it's murder or rape or whatever. But it comes down to the parents actually being a part of their children's lives and not just, you know, letting them run rampant. You know, I mean, at least that's the way I see it. I mean, that's where it comes from. That's where I learned, you know, right from wrong. You know, that's why I would never, you know, I'm sure the two of you would say the same.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I do want to switch gears just a tad, because one of the things that that I was thinking about as I was doing research, and I'm a fairly big sort of liberty person in the sense that people should have the liberty to be themselves and do what they want, and that's why I would consider myself really a feminist, in that I stand behind, you know, women doing these, you know, slut walks and things like that. Anything that raises the that lets us see these types of things, that brings it to the forefront, that we have conversations about it. One thing that I was wondering about is, and wanted to get your guys' kind of feedback on, is, now there are websites, obviously, you know, 85-90% of the internet is used to sell sex and porn. So there are websites actually out there that have subscription bases, and there are entire subsets of the porn industry that specialize in fantasy rape. Do you think that something like that, and I'm not talking about like snuff videos or even fake snuff videos, I'm talking about actual fantasy rape videos. Do you think that stuff like that contributes to that rape culture? Do you think that it shows an empowerment to women because they can be a part of this, a part of the porn industry, and not and kind of make the decisions and be in a safe environment where they can do this type of thing? I don't know. I'm not sure how you guys feel about it.
I think it could be fuel to the fire for someone who's already has an issue that could be a threat to do that. You know, if they found those sites, it's, you know, fuel to the fire. I mean, I don't know if there's a line where you say that can't be done or not. I don't know, but it's definitely not helpful for someone who is already, you know, close to the line, you know, that might possibly commit a crime such as that. You know, something like that could be the thing that pushes them over the edge.
I don't know that it necessarily be like a major contributing factor to like rape culture in general. I mean, I definitely agree with you that like for somebody who, you know, is already, you know, violent already and already has those thoughts, that kind of pornography is probably not, you know, conducive to him not, you know, committing violent acts. But at the same time, like, I remember reading a book years ago, and it was talking about women having rape fantasies, and they're not true rape fantasies. This is getting into a whole weird subset, but you know, I mean, and I think it's probably just part of the kink, you know, subculture. And it's probably, like I said, not a huge contributing factor to rape culture. But I think, I don't know. I'm not really sure how, I mean, because it is that sort of weird line between, like, you know, it's that those fantasy rape things are all consensual, whatever consenting adults want to do. But, you know, it probably is not, I think it's probably not good for violent people to watch, but that they already know that that's something that violent people do, is watch very violent porn in general. So, I mean, I think it's probably one begets the other.
Sequoia, you had mentioned that when you had watched a lot of the PSA videos when you were younger, and they had mentioned, don't put your hair in a ponytail and enter your car by this side. Now, if they, let's assume that they had access to all data for all rapes in this fantasy world that I'm setting up, and they actually did find the data that blonde women, or in your case, let's say brunette women, are twice as likely to be raped in this particular part of town. It's a part of town that you happen to frequent. If they put that information out there as a PSA, do you think that's if it is the actual data? Do you think that that's bad for them to put that information out there because they're saying that you shouldn't have brunette hair if you're going to go to that part of the area, or what do you think about that?
I don't think the problem is necessarily in disseminating the information that, women with these certain, characteristics are more likely, in this situation. Like, that's a very specific thing to say. That almost sounds like, we're having a serial rapist, avoid this part of town, which is something that they will do if that is going on. I think, the problem with putting out information like, don't wear your hair in a ponytail, don't dress like a slut, don't wear short skirts, don't wear clothes that are easy to take off. It creates this whole idea of putting the onus of preventing rape on the women.
Ah, okay. I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
It's more in the spirit of the reason for why that information is being put out there.
Exactly. Like, because it makes it feel like, well, here's the information, and if you aren't following it, then, you're kind of asking for it.
Ah, yes, and that's probably the key. Because you're dressing like this, you're asking for it. Had you chose not to dress like that, you wouldn't have gotten raped, and that's not always the case.
Exactly.
And I would venture to guess that it's very rarely the case. So, yeah. James?
Heavy subject. I
I
had something. My mind keeps getting erased listening, and my thoughts, like what I was going to say, is gone again.
Well, we're about we had a little bit of trouble getting started at the beginning, and we're about 40 minutes past 9 at this point. So if you guys want, we can kind of take a little bit of a short break. I want to before we move on to the next topic, unless there's something else you guys wanted to say on this, specifically Sequoia, since this is one of the topics you had chosen. I wanted to know if there's something you want to wrap up with.
I think we covered a lot of stuff. I know it's a heavy subject, and I knew when I picked it, I was kind of picking like a pretty heavy subject. But I think probably the best way to fight rape culture is to talk about it and to get the discussion going, and because I think a lot of people don't talk about it and they don't even really think about it. So I think stuff like this is good. The more we talk about it, the more you know.
There you go. Do.
Uh-oh, copyright infringement.
Oh, shit.
That's why I didn't do the tune. I promise we're safe.
He didn't really do the tune either. That was really bad.
That was poor. I don't think I've heard that tune in a very long time. So
you alluded to the tune, which I think we're safe with that.
Yeah, I think it was. I think we're okay. Don't sue us.
Please.
Okay, I did want to take just a moment to let you guys know, or at least show off some more. If you do frequent our Facebook page, you will notice that I uploaded a couple of new pictures onto it that were made by one of the graphic design, many graphic design people I know. One of them I asked to do this for us, and she did a wonderful job. I'm going to show this one. This is this one that she had made that you may have seen right at the beginning. So that is our fancy new logo. You can see more of them on our Facebook page. She did a wonderful job. She was great. She did everything that we asked and didn't complain about it. She was more than happy to do it. And so I wanted to definitely give a shout out to her. if any of you guys are interested in getting any graphic design work done. But the biggest thing that she really wanted me to show was her website. Here we are. And this is, she actually makes jewelry as well. It's kind of a family business thing. So it's their StravAmax.com, StravAmax.com. Lots of very nice jewelry. My wife owns at least one pair of their earrings. I don't know if she's purchased more because, you know, she does that. But but lots of really nice stuff. I would ask you guys just to, you know, at the very least, go and check out the website, see if there's anything you like, and you know, if you do, one of the best ways to say thank you to people sometimes is just to buy things from them. So there you are. That's the other thing. Nope, that was it. That was the only thing I wanted to go over. We were going to move on to our second topic on girl gamers. This is another one that I think, Sequoia, you pretty much were really excited about doing as well, if not having chose that as your sort of as another topic you wanted to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So this one didn't require quite as much like research as the rape culture one did, and my video is kind of frozen there for a second. There we go. But I actually, in thinking about it, I had a lot of questions that I sort of wanted to ask you. I think James had some questions he wanted to ask, but I've been talking a lot, so I'm going to let James start off with his questions if he's ready to go.
Well, you know, first off, I mean, I'm the oldest one here, and I remember, you know, playing video games, and it was a guy thing. It was a boy thing. I was a kid. It was a boy thing to play video games. And then as time went on, and you know, the whole family's growing up with a Nintendo in the living room, Super Nintendo or Sega or whatever path you follow all the way up to now, it was more accessible by everyone was playing. You know, I remember, you know, there were even for the Nintendo, there was a Barbie game. I never got it, and I'm kind of upset. I'm just kidding. But, you know, there were games even back then that were, you know, pointed at getting, you know, more girl gamers or female gamers, if you will. And, you know, the more that time's gone on, there are so many of them now. And it's for me, it's exciting because it's a fun thing, and I don't like any fun thing to be limited to one group of people. I don't know if I have any specific questions. So that's just my little intro to it, and Justin, you can ask a question.
All right. Well, before I ask a question, I want to preface something. I personally have a problem with the terminology of girl gamers. In my eyes, they're gamers. And whether or not they're guys or girls make no difference. We don't say guy gamers. We don't say gay gamers. We don't say people with blonde hair gamers. We don't say 5'6", you know, foot tall people gamers. I mean, they're just gamers. Also, gamers who happen to be female tend to kick my ass in most games, so I don't want to make them mad. So that kind of lends to it.
Don't be afraid, Justin.
I don't. Please. I'm on Xbox Live sometimes. Be gentle. I'm the one you hear crying most of the time. But anyway, I was wondering, Sequoia, how you feel about the label girl gamers.
Well, I was just going to say I actually really appreciate that little preface there. I mean, I have never really thought much about being a gamer just because it was something that I liked, you know. It had nothing to do with, you know, it being a guy thing or anything like that, and I never have ever really took on the label girl gamer. It was always just like, yeah, I'm a gamer, just, you know, like everybody else. So I hear it a lot, and it is kind of annoying because it's like, you know, I know just as many women gamers as I do, you know, men gamers, but, you know, at the same time, like, I just like gaming, so I just enjoy it for what it is. I don't worry too much about, you know, the girl gamer label, I guess.
You know, and I think it's true that there's probably a balance. Hardcore gamers, like, there probably isn't too much of a break like, percentage-wise between men and women, but like casual gamers, I would say leans more heavily towards men, that have an Xbox, that play Madden or Call of Duty with their friends, those fantastic games, an original one every 6 months. Wait, looks just like the last one. I did have a question, and it has slipped my mind again. So
you need to start writing them down.
You need to do a piece of paper and a pencil during the show, and that's what I've had to start doing because
someday we're gonna have to talk about my illiteracy. Illiteracy is not fun. No, I was gonna ask. Do you feel like you get treated differently if you're playing, an online game and then they find out that you're a girl?
Yes.
Like, go ahead.
Go ahead. I think it's probably gotten better in the past couple of years, and I don't know if that's just because I've gotten older, so I'm a little bit more like, dude, you don't need to help me. But there is definitely, like, when I first started, because when I first started in World of Warcraft, I was kind of a noob. Everybody is when they first start out, but I wasn't really super into gaming at the time. It was sort of what really got me into gaming was playing World of Warcraft. And we had joined this guild, and I was really into it, and then they all found out I was a girl. And then it was just, like, constant, like, what do you need help with? Suki Dragon, what do you need help with? I'll help you. I'll come help you. Do you need gold? Whatever you need. Like, because it was like I was, like, this little girl that they needed to take care of. And then I started kicking their ass in PvP, and that was all over.
Give me my gold back.
Do you play more computer gaming?
No, really the only PC game I ever really got into was World of Warcraft.
Okay.
I'm definitely more of a console gamer. Because I don't even play World of Warcraft anymore. I've quit. I am off.
You made it out.
Yes.
You beat the game, right?
Sober
you
for a year.
You beat it.
She got her 1 year chip. Also, you can also turn in for a free month of WoW, actually.
That wouldn't surprise me. Scroll of Resurrection.
Go ahead,
sorry, I was just going to say. So, what are you playing right now? What's the game that you're into right now?
Well, I haven't really been able to game too much recently. The last game I really
Blasphemer.
I know, it's really bad. Last game I really got into is Borderlands 2, which I was really liking. Before that, I had been playing some older games. I had kind of gone through. I've been playing Dragon Age 2, which I love. I'm huge into fantasy RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
I love the Fable games. So yeah, I'm definitely like more in the fantasy RPG. That's really in my wheelhouse of gaming.
I know that my sister is a gamer as well, and one of her biggest complaints, I guess, I mean, she'll still play the games and she loves them, but that a lot of times you can't, there's so many games where it's a male lead and they just leave it at that, and if you don't like it, suck it. You know what I mean? Do you feel that way with games at all?
I haven't felt that as much, mostly because I think probably in the fantasy RPG world, there's all that stuff about creating your own character. So there are a lot more character options. So you can make your character look however you want. You can, it can be a boy, a girl, whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. So I felt that less, but I do know in like a lot of games there, because I've thrown down for like Call of Duty and Modern Warfare a couple of times, stuff like that, and it is just you're a dude. That's it.
Yeah, the first two Mass Effects, you were limited to being a male. The third one opened that up, so that wasn't the case, or at least the first one. Now I feel like I'm an idiot of the Mass Effects. And in Fable, I'm pretty sure that the first two you had to play a male.
First
the third one, only the first one. Okay, all right. So here's a question that I have. When you have the option to play a male or a female, what do you play? Typically, what's your first go-to?
I do play females more often.
Okay.
There were a few times, especially in World of Warcraft, I would basically go into witness protection, and I would make a male character, just to make it a little less likely. And I had quite a few male characters on World of Warcraft, and it was a little bit like being a witness protection. So that was a nice aspect of it. But I do typically tend to play female characters because, I want the character to look like me a little bit, I connect with the female character. So
That was one that I was interested in asking you. James, what about you? Do you normally play a male or a female character when given the option?
I normally play a male character when given the option. I used to play an MMO as well, City of Heroes, and I had a few female characters. But as a general rule, I'll play a male character. But most games, you don't have the option.
Yeah, and it's nice to see that the gaming industry has started to realize that girls who play games don't necessarily, just because they're girls, want to play games with ponies and parties and things like that, and they want to play the games that all the other gamers are playing, that guys are playing. I mean, it doesn't make a difference. It's, we like certain types of games. I'm like you, Sequoia. I'm more interested in the RPG type games rather than first-person shooters. The first game where I really got into first-person shooter, and I still love it to this day, was Halo. And I was never a big first-person shooter. I hated them. They scared me. I felt like I couldn't control the character very well. That things were out of control for me, and that I had no really. It moved too fast for me.
Get beat up by girls and 12-year-olds.
And that's still the case. I guess I'm just more. I just don't care as much anymore.
You and me both.
However, I do, when given the choice, I will play a female character before I will play a male character. And this is going to sound bad, because my thought is this: if I'm going to sit and look at a TV screen for the next 60 hours playing this game, I want to look at something that I enjoy looking at. So after we just had
the first time I've heard that either.
Okay. After we've just had a conversation about rape culture and objectifying women, I'm sitting here and admitting that I objectify the female form that is being portrayed in a video game that is written on zeros and ones, that doesn't represent a single person or human being. I just want to clarify that I'm not a hypocrite.
Just a bunch of pixels.
It's just a bunch of pixels. Yes, it's not literally a woman. It's I find the female form attractive. There you are.
Your wife is going to be very happy to find out.
Yes.
But even when we've played like tabletops, you play a lot of female characters there as well.
You're right. And in that case, I don't. Obviously, I'm not looking at them. I think I'm a Joss Whedon fan. Joss Whedon writes good, strong female characters. I like the idea of good, strong female characters. I think that they're impressive. One of my most favorite D&D characters that I ever made was a female monk who was a member of a society in which she was basically like a courtesan, but as part of her courtesan training, she was also very, very good at defending herself. She was very capable, and she was part of like a guild of courtesans. And she was one of my favorite characters because she could kick ass and take names, but she was very demure. She tended to wear loose-fitting clothing, and was incredibly sexual, but was a very fun character for me. That seems a little too much to open up to you guys.
So, Sequoia, do you think that the gaming industry is getting more female-friendly?
I do actually. I think that, I think, so if you want to call it like nerd culture, or, because I think like the sci-fi fantasy realm has always been a little bit more open to that idea, because I think that there have always been like really strong female characters within that genre. And I think that, the gaming industry is definitely a part of that. And I think more people are getting more used to female gamers. I think that there's more and more of us every day. And I think, gaming in general is just, it's something that came about, and I think that there's, it's widening up to a larger audience, like you were talking about in the beginning. And I think it's definitely becoming more female friendly. I think it's definitely more geared towards, be a badass, whether you're male or female. We don't care about your gender just as long as you can kick enough ass.
So
no one wants to group with a bad gamer.
Do you have a favorite game coming out anytime soon?
Well, it's already out. I have not had a chance to play it yet. I'm working on it. BioShock, the new BioShock game. I am dying to play it.
It's
love
called BioShock Infinite, and it's really fun. It's very good. If you go back a few podcasts, you could hear my review of it. I said it was good.
That's part of the reason I really want to play it.
Yeah, it makes me want to play it too, but I don't have any extra money right now. I might have to come and steal it from you, James.
Yeah, no, I don't want your Gears of War, so you're going to have to offer me up something else. I know you didn't actually offer me up anything, but...
I got Star Trek.
Yeah, I heard I've heard a personal review from a friend of mine, and it didn't come out great, so...
Well, then we'll have to do that and something. It doesn't matter. Is there anything coming out that you're looking forward to, Sequoia?
I've been really behind on the gaming world, which is really unfortunate.
Stop reading those books.
I know, right? Too much books, not enough gaming. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head that's coming out. Like I said, I really, really want to play BioShock Infinite, and I've had massive amounts of people trying to get me to come back to World of Warcraft after Mists of Pandaria came out. I'm trying to resist. I uninstalled World of Warcraft from my computer to avoid it, but you never know.
Every time you want to, go out and look at the sun and see if you like it.
I don't know.
There's not a lot coming out in the near future game-wise for my money. Saints Row 4, which Saints Row 3 just came out.
Gears, GTA, Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's coming out. I haven't seen anything on it, but I was a big Grand Theft Auto fan. So, I mean, not huge, but they were good games. The one that I'm actually looking forward to comes out in August or September. It's Lego Marvel Avengers type game, which, I loved a lot of the Lego games. They're great games.
They really are.
And they're good, solid games, and they're really funny. They're funny, and the story is really silly, and it's got that real kind of Lego sort of humor to it.
And they're very almost Mario-ish in that kind of game because it's all like puzzles and side-scrolling and stuff like that. They're fun. They're neat games.
Yep, and they're good to play with people who don't game as much. My wife games here and there. She doesn't play video games that much, but those type of games she really enjoys because we can play with our son, and she can interact with it because she's not as big into games. So. One question that I always like when I remember, to ask guests, James and I had answered before, and the other guest I asked, we lost that audio, so nobody ever heard it. But if you're walking along the street and there is a coin or a denomination of money upon the ground, what is the lowest denomination of money you're willing to stop and actually pick up?
A dime.
A dime? Okay, so you wouldn't do a nickel or a penny?
No.
All right.
No. That actually happened to me at the gas station today. There was a penny there and then a quarter a little bit closer, and I picked up the quarter, and I was like, I'm not picking up the penny. I already picked up the quarter. And then it turned out to be Canadian money anyway. So...
Well, I will say right now, because I just had to pay somebody who lives in Canada, and so PayPal switched the money for me from American to Canadian, and the Canadian dollar on the day that I switched it was worth more than the American dollar.
So you found 26 cents. You picked up the quarter, got the penny for free. That is fantastic.
It's like I picked up both.
Yeah.
Perfect.
See, for me, I go directly to the quarter and skip over the dime because it is the hardest piece of change to pick up. So it's a lot more work. I would almost go for the nickel and the quarter and forget the dimes.
Well, I'm still pretty dexterous. So I think I'm actually okay on picking up dimes.
I think our guest here just took a shot at my age. I won't remember tomorrow. It's okay.
So we'll have to have Sequoia back for one of our drunk shows because I think that would be hilarious.
Definitely
maybe a drunk gaming show if we can ever get that together.
Yeah, that's something we've been talking about. We're trying to figure out how to make it work, where we actually do we play online all the not all the time, but a significant amount of time. I play with my brother a lot, and we thought it would be great to do a show in which you guys get to watch us make fools out of ourselves and
in a video game, not in real life like we normally do.
Yeah, a nice change. But we are out of time. That hour went very fast, as these shows often do. And I want to thank you, Sequoia, for coming on, being one of our guests. It was great. You are always welcome to come back. We enjoyed it a lot.
Well, thanks for having me. It was fun.
All right, James, do you want to wrap up with stuff and say all the fun things that we normally say to people?
Yeah, like the video, find us on Facebook, follow our Twitter, go to Chicago Now, look up us and the other people that blog there. A lot of interesting stuff there. Soon we should have an app you'll be able to download. It is $1.99. That's the cheapest we could get it done. But it'll be there for people who want it. Be right there on your phone. We should have an Apple one for the iPhone sometime maybe in a month or so. And beyond that, the website we showed you earlier, for the jewelry, don't forget Mother's Day, right around the corner, folks. That's all I got. Thanks again for watching or listening, whichever way you consumed our podcast today, and we'll see you in a week.
All right.